Hey, special educators. Welcome to Teach, Taskbox, Inspire, the podcast dedicated to making your job as a special education teacher easier by making your instruction more fun for you and your students. Inside each episode, you'll learn how to get the most use out of your task boxes in the classroom. I'm your host, Lisa Hollady from Chalkboard Superhero, a veteran special education teacher passionate about empowering you with purposeful teaching strategies, helpful tips and tricks, and other classroom management tools that will help you thrive in your role. Let's get started with today's episode. Hey there, special educators, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I'm your host, Lisa Hollady, and today we're diving into a topic that I know many of you deal with regularly: managing meltdowns in the classroom, especially in self-contained settings. Meltdowns can feel so overwhelming, not just for the student, but for the whole class. So today, I want to share 5 practical tips for helping a student through those tough moments when they are escalated, while also ensuring the safety and well-being of everyone in the classroom. Tip number 1, safety and space. These are 2 key words to remember when a student is in crisis mode. If a student is engaging in aggressive behavior, throwing items, or trying to leave the classroom, your priority is safety. This means making sure the student and everyone else in the room is in a safe environment. For example, in my classroom, if a student starts throwing objects, I calmly guide the rest of the students to a different area of the room or even out of the room if necessary. You could also remove anything within reach that could be dangerous to that student. So things like scissors, sharp objects, staplers, because I've had a stapler thrown at me before. So anything that a student can throw, I try to remove. If a student is throwing themselves to the ground, placing a soft mat, a gym mat, or even blankets or pillows around them can prevent injury. So the goal here is to create a safe space where the student can release that energy without harming themselves or others. But remember, you're not getting involved emotionally. You're simply making sure everyone is safe. You're not trying to reason with the child in this moment. You're just focusing on safety and giving that student space. Tip number 2, check yourself. Before you can help an escalated student, you need to check yourself first. Take a deep breath. Make sure you're calm, because our reactions can sometimes make the situation worse. I found myself in situations where I kind of start to react emotionally, whether it's from frustration, worry, or fear, but it doesn't help. In my experience, it's important to respond, not react. So there is a big difference, and I know some people are like, that's the same thing, Lisa. It's not. A reaction is emotional, right? We're frustrated. We're like superheated. We just want to react, while a response is thought out. So if you have a student who frequently knocks over desks and yell loudly and they're super upset, it's going to take everything in you to stay calm and not react out of frustration. You immediately want to go after them and yell and say, don't do that. But instead, I want you to try to take a deep breath. Remind yourself this isn't about you. I want you to focus on how to help the student get back to that calm state, that baseline, right? This pause is going to make all the difference in keeping the situation from escalating further. Check yourself first before you start. Tip number 3 is to model calmness. Once you've given them that space, you've checked your own emotions, it's now time to approach the student. But you need to model the behavior you want to see. Walk over to them calmly, slowly. Speak in a low and slow voice, and be mindful of your body language. If you're tense and anxious, the student's going to pick up on that. If you speak fast and loudly, they're going to pick up on that. I had a student who would feed off the energy of the room. If I rushed over with a concerned, stressed look, or if I look really mad and agitated, it only made him more mad and agitated. But when I made it sure to keep my facial expressions neutral and my voice was calm, he started to mirror that behavior. He learned to trust that I wasn't there to yell at him or scold him. I was there to help him calm down. All right, the next tip is to offer choices. When a student is upset, offering choices can be a powerful tool. Choices give students a sense of control when they feel like everything around them is out of control. For instance, instead of saying, "You need to calm down," try offering them two options. You might say, "Would you like to sit in the calming corner or take a break outside?" The key here is to keep it simple. A visual choice board can be especially helpful during this. I often use one with pictures of different calming activities like deep breathing, sitting in a beanbag, or taking a sensory break. It gives the students a way to decide on how they want to calm down without thinking about it, which can empower them during a meltdown. Now, if they've never seen this choice board before, offering it during a crisis mode might not be the best option because it might get ripped or torn apart or thrown across the room. But if you have something posted up on the board or in a calm down, you can just point to it and ask them which one that they want to use. So tip number 5 is to offer support, not accusations. And this is critical. When a student is escalated, now is not the time to focus on what they did wrong. Accusing them or pointing out their mistakes during their meltdown will only make things worse. I remember a time when one of my students knocked over a bookshelf and hit another student. And instead of saying things like, "You shouldn't have done that," I simply said, "I'm here for you. Let's take a moment to calm down." Now, I know in the moment you're like, "No, I'm not going to say that, Lisa." But honestly, yelling at the student in that time where he's in crisis mode, he's not listening. So once the student is back to baseline, that's when you can address the behavior and teach problem-solving skills. But in the heat of the moment, your job is to support them and remind them that you're there for them no matter what. Many of our students, especially those with a trauma history, need to know that they're still cared for, even after engaging in those challenging behaviors. All right, guys, so there you have it. That's my quick top 5 tips for managing those meltdowns in the classroom. Remember, it all starts with ensuring safety, keeping yourself in check, modeling that calmness, offering the choices, and really providing support, not accusations. Meltdowns are so hard, but with these strategies, you can help your students through those moments while still maintaining a calm and safe classroom environment. Now, you might even get some pushback from your colleagues, and they might not understand what it's like to help a student through a crisis situation. So try it and ignore their judging stares because you know what you're supposed to be doing. You are staying calm and you are providing support to help get your student back to baseline. So thanks so much for tuning in today. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to share it with a fellow educator. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. As always, keep inspiring, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I hope you've gained some tips and motivation to fuel your week ahead. If you're ready to explore more strategies for empowering your students as independent learners, be sure to dive into my free training at chalkboardsuperhero.com/training. And don't keep all this knowledge to yourself. Share this episode with your special education teacher friends who could use some motivation and inspiration. One more thing before you go. If you're finding this podcast helpful and want to show support, head to Apple Podcasts and leave your rating and review. Until next time, keep teaching, taskboxing, and inspiring.